All right, here's a different website to be able to look at a slightly different um, way to look at a budget. And you'll see in a sec just how it's slightly different. Okay, so now I got this suggested budget percentage, and I got a list. It's similar to the list that we've seen before on the basic and the aggressive ones that we were looking at previously, but I want to show you something different that maybe you're already seeing. You will notice that I've got some spots on here where I've got ranges of percentages. So now I'm not saying here's the amount that you're going to spend. It's I can spend anywhere from 10 to 15% on food, 5 to 10% on utilities, and so on. So I've got a range of those percentages to spend on each. Okay? And so now we're going to stay focused on the apartment hunt. So I want this apartment with the nice fireplace. Okay? So as we're hunting, our focus then in this list is the housing, 25%, so that's the rent amount, and then the utilities, between 5 and 10%. So what percentage range do I have in terms of the amount that I could spend? Well, that's, yeah, from 30 to 35%, because the 25% plus 5 gives me the 30, 25% plus 10 gives me the 35%. So I have this range of the amount of money that I can spend, okay? And so now let's look at this. Here's an example. $3,000 is my net monthly income. So I'm going to use this formula. The dollar amount that is set in the budget is going to be my net monthly income times whatever the percentage is out of the list. Okay? So I'm going to focus on the rent. Well, that's our housing. That's 25%, which is why I have 3,000 times 0.25 net monthly income times that percentage. So what's the dollar amount that I should set aside for rent? Great, $750. Beautiful. All right, but that's not everything, right? Now, again, we're going to use the same formula, but now our focus is going to be on the utilities. But here's what you got to understand. I did 3,000 times 0.05. Why? Because that's going to be my minimum amount. 5% is the low end. So I want to say I'm probably going to set aside at least this much. Well, what dollar amount is that going to be that I'll set aside for the minimum amount for utilities? Great, $150. But it's a range for utilities. It's between 5 and 10%, so I need to figure out the other end of that range. So that's the 3,000 times 0.10. That's going to be my maximum amount because that 10% is the max percentage I should set aside. So what's the dollar amount for the max that I should spend on utilities? Perfect, $300. Excellent job. So now let's put that together. We got $750 for the budget for rent we set aside. Our amount for utilities was that range of $150 to $300. And so now let's figure out what's the total amount that I should set aside for my apartment. And again, it's going to be a range of amounts, not just one number. And so what will that range be? Perfect, from 900 to 1,050, because all I did, I took 750 plus 150, that's 900. 750 plus 300, that's 1,050. Beautiful. So there's the range that I would want to have for how much I can spend on the apartment, again, based on how much I make. So let's do a few of these. There's the net monthly income, $3,750. So let's start with the rent. First off, what's the math problem that we're going to use to get this answer? Perfect, 3,750 times 0.25, because that's our percentage, right? So what's the dollar amount for rent? Awesome job, $937.50. Okay, now we need to start dealing with the utilities, so let's deal with the minimum amount. What will be the math problem for that one? Great, 3,750 times 0.05, because it's 5% is my low end. So what's the dollar amount for that minimum? Great, 187.50. Now we need to deal with the maximum amount for utilities. What will that math problem be? Awesome. 3750 times 0.10 because that's my 10%. So what's that dollar amount for the max? Great, $375. And now what's that total dollar amount for the apartment? So we're now talking again about what's the range of dollar amounts. So what will that be? What will our range be? Awesome job, 1125 to 1312.50. Because again, all I'm doing is adding those two to get the low end, adding these two to get the high end. Beautifully done. Let's do another one. Now my income is 2200. Let's do the rent. Again, what's the math problem that we're going to use to get this answer? Perfect. 2200 times 0.25. There's my percentage, 25%. What's the dollar amount for rent then? Awesome, $550. Let's do the minimum amount for utilities. What's my math problem for that one? Beautiful, 2200 times 0.05. The 5% is the low end. So what's our dollar amount for the utility minimum? Superb, $110. Let's get that max amount for utilities. What's the math problem for that one? Beautiful, 2200 times 0.10. Awesome. So what will be my dollar amount for the max? Tremendous, $220. So now let's get our total dollar amount for that apartment. What's that range for the dollar amount that I'm going to set aside for that? Perfect, from 660 to 770. Again, 510. 550 plus 110 is the 660. 550 plus 220 is the 770. Awesome job. Okay, last one. Here we go. So we got $29.75 for the monthly income. Again, here's the rent. We're starting there. What's the math problem for that? Excellent, $29.75 times 0.25. So my dollar amount for rent is excellent, $743.75. Now we're going to do the minimum amount for utilities. The math problem for that is what? Perfect, $29.75 times 0.05. You guys are getting this. So what's the dollar amount for the minimum for utilities? Perfect, $148.75. Now we got to do the utilities max. What's our math problem for the max amount? Perfect, $29.75 times 0.10, the 10%. What's my dollar amount for the max for utilities? Perfect, $297.50. So now, what's that range for the total amount that we're going to spend on the apartment? Perfect, $892.50 to $1041.25. Excellent job, excellent work by you guys. Way to go. Now let's just kind of organize this. How did we determine that price range for the total? First thing we did was we determined the amount for the rent. So that was just my net income times my percent for housing. Next thing we did, we determined the minimum and maximum amounts for the utilities. And so we just did the net income times those two percentages for the utilities. That's what we did. And then to determine that total price range for the apartment, what did we do? We did the rent plus the minimum utility dollars is at the low end, to the rent plus the maximum utility dollars, that's our high end. So we want to keep that in mind as we go through and do these problems. And so now, here we go. We're going to get down to business right now. The 17 rent utilities assignment. I look forward to the great work that you will do.